We have all heard the story of the Titanic, a British ocean liner that sank on April 15, 1912, killing 1,500 people, and the worst shipping disaster in history. Well, one of those in history. You may think nothing like the Titanic could ever happen again, an ocean liner sinking caused by human error. I'm sorry to say, however, this is false. There were more than 100 shipping disasters caused by human errors. We'll be talking about one that is the greatest disaster in Italian history. A ship designed that was supposed to be the best of the world at her time. However, she herself will become an ultimate graveyard for 300 people. A ship that had a quote-unquote twisted fate. What ship will we be talking about today? Tonight, we'll be talking about an ocean liner that is the worst disaster in Italian history. No, it's not the Andrea Doria. It is the SS Principessa Malfalda. The early 1900s, the Navigazione Generale Italiana, an Italian shipping company, was vastly expanding throughout the US and British territories, as long as everywhere else in the world. The company then realized they needed 2 new ships to compete with this competition for more passengers, more freight, and of course, more luxurious. It was then decided that 2 ships would be built. These 2 ships would both have 2 funnels and 2 propellers and a top speed of 18 knots, and will be 463 feet long. The first ship was to be named SS Principessa Jolanda. Jolanda was named after Jolanda of Savoy, the princess and daughter of King Victor Emmanuel III. The second ship will become even more famous. The second ship will be named Principessa Malfalda. Mafalda's namesake was Princess Mafalda of Savoy, also the second daughter of King Emmanuel III. Principessa Jolanda and Principessa Malfalda were designed to become the best of Italian ocean liners. I am sorry to say, however, only one entered into service. September 22nd, 1907. It is the launch date for the SS Jolanda. A lot of people have come to see the launching of what is said to be Italy's true ocean liner. At 12:25 p.m., Principessa Jolanda is launched into the sea, fully constructed, with only her interiors to be completed. She slids slowly into the sea. Slowly, the majestic Principessa Jolanda reaches the surface of the water. All on board begin to cheer, and the people on the shore begin to cheer as well as the mighty ship rises from the waves. Suddenly, something goes terribly wrong. Immediately following the launch, Jolanda begins to list heavily to her port side. So many people begin to scream in horror as the mighty vessel begins to lean onto her side. The captain and everyone else on board the ship at that time scramble for the lifeboats. The people on shore watch helplessly as the already brand new ship slids beneath the waves. Luckily, everyone is able to aboard the lifeboats just in time. An hour after launching, Principessa Jolanda capsizes. Luckily, thanks to the slowly sinking of the ship, everyone was able to escape. No one was killed. But everyone was wondering, how could this have happened to an already brand new ship? During the investigation, it was then concluded that Jolanda had listed to her furnishings and funnels and masts already put on the ship before she was launched. do this, and thanks to no coal or gravel being on board the ship, she had already became unstable once she touched the water. There was no hope of saving her. She had slept beneath the waves, and was deemed, even though she was a brand new ship, she was deemed a total loss. Principessa Jolanda was deemed unsalvageable and was scrapped on sight. A brand new ship, not even in service. A collier, the Milazzo, is believed to have the engines of the Principessa Jolanda. She was sunk in World War I. Now, the two-ship service had become one. Everyone was wondering, could the same thing happen to Principessa Malfalda, Principessa Jolanda's younger sister? In the loss of her oldest sister, Mafalda was launched with no of her superstructure already installed. This proved quite successful, and she was launched with no incident. Fate had sealed one ship, but had spared another. Only for a little while, at least. For several years, Mafalda became the flagship of the NGI, and was considered the best of the best. On the eve of World War I, Mafalda made her first and only trip from Genoa, Italy, her home port, to New York. Her usual route was to be the Genoa to Buenos Aires route. During the war, she will be stationed at Toronto for officers on board. Her luxurious interiors include a two-story ballroom and several spacious staterooms. After the war, she resumed her South American service. From 1909 to 1927, Mafalda proved to be quite a beautiful ship with a rapid speed of 18 knots, something her older sister would have done. However, by 1926, she had already made 90 round trips, long but uneventful. However, some passengers had concluded that she was a ship of quote-unquote faded luxury. A year later, Princess Mafalda's life will come to an end, but not in a very good way. October 11th, 1927. SS Principessa Malfalda gets ready for another trip from Genoa, Italy to Buenos Aires, with intermediate stops like places like Dakar, Rio San Janeiro, and Montevideo. 971 passengers and 281 crew members were on board the ship. An experienced captain, Simon Julie, was in command of the ship. Also on board were 300 tons of cargo, 600 bags of mail, and 250,000 tons of gold for the Argentinian government. The trip was said to take 14 days. This voyage, however, would not go as planned. When the ship left Barcelona, its first intermediate stop, it was almost a day late, thanks to mechanical problems with the engines. To make matters worse, Mafalda would have to slow to a stop in high seas, for hours even. The trip wasn't going so well. That's not the worst, however. Water in the bathrooms became intermediate, and the refrigerators were down, causing lots of food to spoil, causing a lot of cases of food poisoning. Princess Mafalda was in very poor condition. When the ship stopped at Cape Verde, Captain Gooley had telegraphed the company NGI for a replacement vessel. What he received, however, was quite confusing. Reach Rio and await instructions, it said. It didn't say anything about a replacement vessel. Even so, they should have done. Principessa Malfalda was in no way conditioned to sail. Captain Gooley didn't have any other choice. With the ship partially repaired and fresh food installed, he took her out to the Atlantic. it would be the last time Principessa Malfalda would ever make a stop on her trip. By the 23rd, Mafalda had grown a noticeable but small list to port. Some of the passengers that had very few explanations for the earlier delays and breakdowns were worrying that the ship was taking on water. However, the captain and his crew assured them that everything was okay. At this point, even though behind schedule, far behind schedule, Mafalda was able to reach her full speed, even though she was still at a list to port. Life began to turn normal on the Mafalda, and on the 24th, when passing over the equator, there was a across-the-line party, complete with an orchestra and a huge cake. The longest part of the journey was almost over. However, Mafalda would never reach her destination. 1500 hours. It is October 25th, 1927. Mafalda is just 80 miles from Brazil, when, however, the passengers feel a strong shudder all around the ship. At first, the passengers are told that a propeller had broke off. However, the chief engineer knows it's way worse. The metal shaft of the propeller had indeed fractured, but it had even caused more damage. The starboard propeller shaft had fractured off its axis, and instead had caused a severe gash along the side of the ship. The ship was taking on water fast. Captain Gooley knew he had no time to think. At 17,500 hours, he sends out general alarm and sends out an SOS. However, Captain Gooley had first thought that the ship could stay afloat until the next day. Still, he had sent out the SOS. The British steamship SS Empire Star had arrived on the scene quickly. Also, the Dutch freighter Alhena also arrived on the scene. However, panic was beginning to spreading on board. With clear weather and rescuers nearby, everything was thought to be okay. However, panic was beginning to spread among the passengers. What happened next is still unknown to this day. What is known is that panic quickly spread among the passengers. Some of the passengers were even armed, and the crew had difficulty manning the lifeboats and keeping orders on those on board. What made matters worse was that the ship herself was still moving in a giant circle, and the rescue ships were having confused signals on what to do. Not all the lifeboats were launched during the sinking because of the list. Many were rushed by the passengers. Some were not even seaworthy. One Argentinian newspaper even said that one of the lifeboats was only full of crew members, including the ship's purser. Still, the passengers had to fight a way to get off the ship. Meanwhile, the beautiful but unseaworthy Principessa Malfalda was sinking. Fearing a boiler explosion, many of the rescue ships had to keep back away from the ship, leaving the passengers to fight for themselves. However, in the final hours of the sinking, some of the lifeboats were able to shuttle passengers between Alhena and Mafalda. Meanwhile, the Italian ship is sinking faster and faster beneath the waves. However, even though they knew they were going to die and had to save themselves, the two radio operators refused to leave Mafalda. They were stayed on board until the very end, pleading for help from the nearby ships. Both radio operators were drowned. What is known is that the chief engineer had committed suicide. The passengers were in a complete bedlam as the mighty Princess Mafalda sank beneath the waves. It is unknown if any of the passengers have died from the shooting. As I said before, some of the passengers were armed, but what is known is that there was a violent struggle for survival. Still, the rescue ships did what they can to help. Meanwhile, the once beautiful Mafalda is sinking beneath the waves. Her stern sinks below the waves, causing her bow to rise higher and higher into the air. The passengers race for anywhere to the highest point on the ship. 5 hours after her propeller shaft had twisted, SS Principessa Malfalda sinks beneath the waves, stern first. Where the ship once was is now a sea full of passengers struggling to survive, and lifeboats scattered everywhere. The rescue ships, now knowing there won't be a boiler explosion, arrive on the scene. However, for some, it is too late. Alhana carried the most survivors, followed by Avalona, then Empire Star, Farsona, and 2 more ships. Those being Rossetti and Moelle. Moselle carried the least survivors, 49. Of the 1,252 people aboard the ship that day, 314 people were dead, including Captain Gooley, who went down with the ship, just like Captain Smith did on the Titanic. What follows are what people consider the lucky ones, the survivors of the Mafalda. Mafalda remains one of the most controversial sinkings in the history of maritime tragedies in peacetime. It's unknown. There have been reports of gunfire, sharks in the water, exploding boilers, and ships refusing to assist. These all, however, have not been confirmed. Even the exact wreck place of the Mafalda is still under questioning. However, an investigation was held into the sinking. It was then said that a case on the starboard propeller shaft had caused the shaft to twist off its axis and to tear a severe gash in the ship. Also, 6 lifeboats were positioned at the stern in poor placement. Questions surrounded the sinking: the vessel's age, poor adequate maintenance, and the actions of the crew members. What is known is that Captain Gooley was given the bravery honor for saving so many lives, even though he himself died. While her oldest sister, Principessa Jolanda, sank before even becoming in liner, Mafalda had died a tragic way, just like her sister. NGI had to pay a hefty fine for the tragedy. It was technically their fault for not giving the passengers a much better looking ship. Not better looking exactly, but better maintenanced. Not a ship that was in poor condition, i.e. the Mafalda. The story still continues, and another twist of fate in this tragic story, involving Mafalda's namesake. As Kid Victor Emmanuel was her father and the king, the Nazis had taken Princess Mafalda hostage in a Nazi boot camp. She died in 1944, age 41, a hostage of war. Princess Mafalda had met a fate similar to her namesake. However, more lives were lost. 2 beautiful ocean liners. One never even got to see the chance of daylight. One sank due to poor maintenance and bad decisions and human error, just like what happened on the Titanic. Another difference in what happened to Titanic was that most of the passengers that survived were steerage passengers. 51.8% of the passengers, to be exact, while most of the passengers that died were first-class passengers, totally reversed from the Titanic disaster of 1912. But to this day, Mafalda remains one of the most forgotten tragedies, However, she is the deadliest Italian shipping disaster in history and has the right to be known. Thank you for watching this video about the SS Principessa Malfalda, the worst shipping disaster in Italian history. When you learn about this ship, you'll learn a lot about her older sister, the almost completely forgotten Principessa Jolanda. Thank you for enjoying, and please, on every October 27th, pay tribute to those who died in 1927 on the SS Principessa Malfalda.